Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
Well, when I won the World Hunt, it was 2007.
Okay.
I think it's 2007 with a dog named Abby. And at the time, I had been out of dogs for several years due to work and school and promotions. And so about 2006, late 2005, somewhere in that area, I decided to get back into the dogs because I always loved tree dogs and mostly squirrel dogs. And so I got a couple pups, and neither one of them panned out. I could tell fairly quick that they weren't what I was looking for. So I called my cousin, Bobby Taylor, and I said, hey, I'm coming over to get some full cries, and I'm going to go through some full cry magazines and old yearbooks and current yearbooks, and I've got to find a pup because these pups ain't working out. So I studied those books and yearbooks for, I don't know, a week or two. And I always liked the brindle dog. So I saw Alan Franklin's dogs. And I asked Bobby, I said, what do you think about these dogs? He said, yeah, they're good dogs. And so called Alan and I said, you got any puppies? And he said, man, I don't have any puppies at all. He said, I did, and they're sold. And I said, well, I'm wanting a pup. And I said, I like the looks of this Thundersport dog. And he went back, a little bit to Streak, and that line of dogs I always liked because that was the Streak dogs come from my hometown, basically.
Okay.
Same county.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, I don't have any, but I'm buying a dog. I just bought a dog, but I haven't picked her up yet. And he said her name's Candy Jewel. And I'll be getting her I think he bought her from Don Baker. And Don, I wish we had time, but Don was a fabulous man. Anyway, he got Candy Jewel. He called me, I don't know, a few weeks later, and he said, she's coming in to heat. I'm going to breed her. I said, well, where am I at in the pecking order? I said, am I first? I always like to be first on the pick of the pup. And he said, sure. I said, all right. So this will tell you how long ago it was. I said, whether you want a deposit or I can send you all the money now. And he said, well, send me $50. And I said, okay. I said, how much are the pups? And he said, $200. And which is crazy because a few months ago I bought a pup for $1,200. But anyway, so rocked on there a few months, and she had her pups, and I think she had about, I don't remember, 7 or 8 pups. And a couple real well-known dogs was in that litter. But anyway, I was talking to Alan. He said, there's a hunt at Jamestown. And he said, they're going to be almost 5 weeks old. He said, but man, they're eating good. He said, so I'm going to bring the litter with me. And if you decide that you want one, he said, you can take yours then. He said, or you can let me take them back and they can nurse another week or so. I said, well, let me look at them. So he brought them to the clubhouse at Jamestown, and I was very indecisive because, the litter was beautiful pups, and they were eating and fat and shiny and healthy. And I guess then it took me 45 minutes to pick this pup. And by the time I picked Abby, there was probably 12 of my friends around this little wire cage. They started playing games. Don't pick that one, get this one. And
yeah,
finally, you're messing with me bad. So finally I picked the fattest female, which was her, and took her to my mom's house. And I said, here's another pup, because I left my dogs at her house for years because, with work, I might have to travel, be gone for a week or so at a time. And so I knew they were in good shape. So I left her with him or left her with her. And I come back in a few days and she said, I named this pup Abby. I said, well, that's a good name. That's what we'll go with. And so anyway, she stayed with her about her whole life, really,
Okay.
until I moved again due to work. And then I finally took her with me. But, yeah, she won, I guess it was '07. She was about 18 months old, 19 months old, and she won the junior world OMCBA squirrel hunt. And then the next year she won the senior OMCBA, squirrel hunt. And I never put her in another hunt. I'd hunted her. I think she got second once at the NKC around 2009. And then another hunt, she got, me and Joey Poston was at a Tennessee Bash for Cash. I think we had like 30 dogs, and he and I were the last two. And the next morning we were going to hunt, and it was coming. I mean, just a rainstorm. And we decided, I think we both were going to get tracking collars and split the cash, and that's what we decided to do. But yeah, Abby was a good one. She should have got put in more hunts, but with my work schedule all these years, that's what killed me several on another dog that we can talk about later if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Was my work. I just retired retired June 30th of this year, as well as last year. So been retired now 8 or 9 months, and so feel like I can do something now in the dog world, and
yeah,
that's sort of where I'm at. I got a little more time right now.
Well, if people haven't figured out, who Abby was, and why don't you introduce yourself, Mike?
Well, I'm Mike Hamilton. I've been on the OMCBA board for several years. I grew up in Middle Tennessee, and now live about 30 minutes of Nashville, mm-hmm. which I really don't like. It's my girlfriend. She loves it here because this is home to her. Well, Nashville actually is home to her, but maybe one day we can move. But yeah. I grew up in Overton County, which is where really a lot of the original mountain curs came from at the beginning. Was Overton County, Livingston, Tennessee, that whole county. I'm talking like way back to Mr. Ledbetter and a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at. I'm retired, 54 now, and still feel pretty good, and don't have quite the energy, but I feel pretty good.
Good deal. So when you won that world hunt, I was just coming into like cur dogs at that point. Squirrel Dog Central was in its heyday. I was on there all the time, and squirrel haters, and I didn't post much because I didn't have dogs, or when I did, when I first got dogs, I didn't have anything worth posting. But I was just a lurker on there all the time, so I was very familiar with Abby back then, and Alan's dogs, and actually I hunted with some Thundersport pups. And
well, and I kind of forgot to mention, I want to give credit to everybody I can. There was another real good dog. Actually, there were several, but one that people would know out of that litter, that Candy Jewel Thundersport Cross, was a good one. Alan made it, I think, maybe 2 or 3 times. I know he made it more than once. But Blackjack was Abby's, Thundersport Blackjack was Abby's litter mate. And of course, he's through, goodness, a lot of good dogs. My cousin, Bobby Taylor, my cousin, his dog Shadow, she's, I think, a 5-time world champion, and several other good dogs, another good dog. I'm kind of getting off subject a little bit, but Alan's dogs, old Babe, Jukebox Babe that I hunted against twice. She's in Shadow's lineage too, and Babe was always one of my all-time favorite dogs. She was another good one, and but yeah, that was a good cross and good dogs, and like I said, Don Baker had Jill, and Jill was a heck of a dog too. I think she won a world hunt. Might have been I hate to say it, not be right, but I'm pretty sure she won a world hunt.
Okay.
Maybe later, if we got time, I'll tell you a funny story about about Don Baker later.
Alrighty. But you've got a lot of experience. You said you've served on the board with the OMCBA, and you've known you've been involved with the breed a really long time. So, we were talking the other night, and just the amount of knowledge you have on that breed and the association is incredible.
Well, there's two people that, I've been really into the walkers lately. That walker pup I've got, really, really little Ruby. I'm really proud of her. So I've been calling. I was on the phone today with a couple of the hound guys, and I'm doing them like people have done me, calling, asking all these questions, about dogs from years past. But there's two people that really know cur, pedigrees, and just they're the two best. In no particular order. One of them's my cousin again, Bobby Taylor, and the other one's Carl Smith.
Yeah.
Carl's the president, been around. He had the street dogs, still got them, and the street dogs is just, they were ahead of their time. But Bobby and Carl, they know these dogs, way back, and know I won't even get into that, but they know the truth about everything really. And so, but yeah, Carl's street dogs is, you had Streak, and everybody knows who he is, and Mountain Jackson, and Carl's dogs was, back, in the 80s, they were ahead of their time. They were. I mean, they were that good. And I guess this next little story can lead into my Don Baker story, but Carl had some straws of semen on Mountain Jackson, which is one of my all-time favorite dogs. And I called him, or maybe he was over there at his house one day, and I said, I really want a pup out of Mountain Jackson before this semen's gone. And he said, I'm getting ready to breed Mountain Sissy to him for the first time. And again, like that first story, I said, well, where am I at? Could I get first pick? And he said, yeah. Well, I always like I talked earlier about brindle dogs. I've always been a brindle dog man. So, and I like females. So, pups was born. There was 6 in the litter. Mountain Sissy had 6 beautiful pups. There was 3 brindle and white and 3 yellow and white. And I can't remember how many were boys and girls. But anyway, time come for me to get my pup. So I was again over at Bobby's house, and I said, let's ride over to Carl's, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes away. And I'm gonna get my pup. So we walked into the horse barn, and the stall was Sissy, and I mean 6 again, just beautiful, shiny, healthy, pretty pups. And I'm looking at these pups, I'm thinking, man, that little brindle female is beautiful, but I ain't never seen a pup as pretty as this yellow and white male. I mean, just a gorgeous pup. And we stood there and looked, and I said, Carl, Carl's a male dog, man.
Yeah.
I said, I think I'm going to take that yellow and white male. Of course, Carl loves yellow and white dogs. And I thought he was going to faint then. And he said, you sure?
Because he had you pegged for a female.
He just knew I was going to get, and I thought I was going to pick her. I really did. And I said, I think I'm going to take this yellow and white male. And to this day, he's still the prettiest pup I guess I ever had. And he said, surely not. He said, I know you like brindle dogs, and you're a female man. I said, I know, but today I'm a yellow and white male man. And so we walked the truck, got the truck. Carl's about halfway hanging in the window trying to talk me out of Mick. I named him Mick. And we got going down the road, and Bobby laughed, and he said, man, you broke Carl's heart. I said, yeah, I know, but I didn't mean to. But he's one of the few dogs I named. I named him Mighty Mick. I was always a Rocky fan, the old movie Rocky.
Yep.
And sat at home one day watching the old movie, and it showed Sylvester Stallone walking into the gym called Mighty Mick's Gym.
There you go.
And I thought, that's kind of catchy. I'll name my pup Mighty Mick. So again, I took him to Mom's house and left him with her, and she would get him to leading, and get them to know their name. And she spent a lot of time with them while I was working, which really helps, when you go to the woods and you start trying to train them a little bit. And anyway, the Don Baker story, before I forget, we had put on I think it was the Claude Thomas NKC Memorial World Hunt. We'd put on. And we put it on 2 or 3 years there at our local club, the Middle Tennessee Squirrel and Coon Hunters Club. And Abby, can't remember, she was still young, but I'd been putting her in a few hunts, here and there. And she come into heat. So we got the dogs drew out, and they were all out hunting. Of course, Don, he was up in years. He may have come to that with Alan Franklin. I can't remember. But anyway, Don was there, and I said, Don, of course, Don, if you knew Don, he was always smiling, and people, when they hear this, they're envisioning Don right now with that big grin on his face. But I said, Don, you want to go hunting? He said, I'd love to. He said, what about this pup I've been hearing about? I said, man, he's pretty. I said, he ain't good, but he's pretty. And I said, he's right on the verge, Don, right on the verge of trim. He said, well, let's get him. We'll take him hunting while them boys is out on that competition hunt. I said, all right. So we got in the truck and we drove to Mom's. I called her and I said, we're on our way to get Mick. Well, here's the funny part. Well, he slept in the bed. Mick slept in the bed with Mom till he was a year old. I would literally, I know it's crazy. I would literally go get him and take him hunting. Bring him back, and I'd call and I'd say, I'm pulling in the driveway, and I'd open the dog box, and he'd run to the front door and run in, and she'd have him a bath ready and give him a bath, and then he'd play with her on the couch or wherever, then they'd go get in the bed and go to sleep. But anyway, I called her, and I said, me and Don's on the way to get Mick. We're going to take him hunting. And he was probably 5 months old at this time because he was treeing at 6. Might have been 5.5. I mean, he was right there, about ready to tree. And she said, well, come in. I'm going to make y'all some breakfast. So we come in and she had coffee and me and Don ate with her. So I got Mick and opened the door, and it was cold. It was November and it was cold, and that old cold wind hit him and he jumped back in the bed and got underneath the sheets, and Don told that story. I guess until he died. He said, here's this dog now that's one of these hunts that didn't want to get out in the cold. Yeah. And got back in the bed, but we went out that day and he almost treed, but he didn't. We ended up knocking a squirrel out to him, and Don said, you need to give these dogs he took his pocket knife out and you need to give them some of these guts. It helps them. So we gave him a little dab of guts, and anyway, took him hunting. He never did tree that day, I don't think. And, I know he didn't, because about a week or two later, I took him, was hunting him, and Mick was just eating it up, doing good. And man, I kept missing squirrel after squirrel. I called Bobby again. I said, man, I can't, this dog's treeing. I said, you got to see him, man. I said, this pup's come on. He said, bring him over here. We'll hunt him across the road from the house and we'll get a squirrel out to him. Well, I took him over, and of course Bobby missed a couple times because he's one of the worst shots I ever seen. So when he hears this, he's going to give me a hard time. But we finally got a few squirrels out to him, and then he went on later to do pretty good in the hunts himself. Mick come along at a bad time. He come along, Ben, when basically Carl, wasn't a spring chicken anymore. Mm-hmm. I was working. At this point, I think maybe been promoted again, and had moved to the Nashville area. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, I had Mick. He got to doing real good, and of course, Mom loved him. That was her dog, she said, and she said, I want to go hunting with him before I get so old I can't go. So there was one day, it was an ideal day. It was not a cold day. wasn't hot, but wasn't cold. It was just a little light drizzling rain. I said, "Do you want to go today? It's raining just a little bit." She said, "Yeah, let's go." So we loaded him up. At this point, he's probably, I don't know, 15 months old. No, he's probably 16, 17 months old. And I took him and I loaded him up. I looked over at Abby. Of course, at this point, she's still a young dog. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, we'll take her. So we loaded them both up and made a bad mistake and turned them loose at the same time. Of course, they never treed together. One went one way, one went the other. And after about 4 or 5 trees apiece, I'm wore out, covered in sweat. Finally, I give the Garmin to Mom, and I said, take Abby to the truck. I'm going to get Mick, and I'll find my way back. Just follow this arrow and just wait for me at the truck. And Carl had been trying to buy him because I took him with Carl 2 or 3 times, and he could see, what he was and what he was going to be. And he'd been trying to buy him, and finally, after that day, I thought, man, I can't do both of these dogs justice. They're good dogs, and one of them's going to be setting a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So called him up, shot him a price, and which I thought was sort of big, really pretty good price. I said, I'll say half of him. And I said, you can keep him at your house and we'll hunt him together and we'll just do the best we can with him. And so he said, bring him home. I'll take him. So I took him over there and that was that. And then we hunted him in some hunts, but he come along. What I was saying was earlier, he come along at a bad time because, Carl sometimes couldn't, he was a heck of a dog. He wasn't a straight line. A lot of people thought, he was a straight line hunter. He wasn't. He was just so fast and covered the woods. And, he may tree 100 yards. He may tree 1,000 yards, and so, Carl really couldn't put him in a whole lot of hunts. And Carl's son, Gary, who's probably one of the best hunters I've ever known, was going through some hip issues and ultimately had both hips replaced. So he was having trouble. And of course I'm in Nashville, working. So Merrick didn't get put in the amount of hunts that I really wish he had. Nobody knows if he would have done more, but I really believe that he would have done a lot more if we could have really campaigned him like he should have been.
Yeah. No, but that's another dog a lot of people in the mountain cur breed should know. That's for sure.
Yeah, he was a good dog, and usually if you got a real good dog, they're not the best looking, but he was cat footed, deep chest, narrow flank. He was just built for speed and good loud mouth and stay put tree dog. He was what you look for. I've got I think I've got 4 straws of semen left. All I've got on him. So
hey, that's pretty good.
I better be getting. I better be getting to it because, man, I don't know how long I can keep up with one of these pups right now. So, but yeah, that was me.
You talked about when you got back into these dogs after being out, but how did you get into dogs in the first place? You were born in probably one of the best counties to be born into as far as mountain cur history, but how did that translate to you getting involved?
Well, where I grew up was literally one way in and one way out. Unless you got on a boat and crossed the Del Hollow Lake, it was down in that country. Everybody knew everybody. It was sort of one of these deals where you met a car or a truck. You knew that person, and everybody was waving at everybody. Yeah. And some of my family would visit from Indiana, and they'd say, "Do you know him?" Because I would wave, and I'd say, "Yeah, that's so and so." And so it blew their mind. But and down in that country, everybody had a tree dog, whether it was a walker, tree and cur, a mountain cur, whatever. Bobby and Bo, them boys, they had a half Iredale one time, old Rusty, the ugliest thing you've ever seen. But then you talk about a real tree dog. They put him in a few hunts, and people would kind of snigger until they turned old Rusty loose, and then it got serious,
Yeah.
But everybody had a tree dog, and some people had beagles. My dad wasn't a hunter, but my uncles and cousins and buddies, everybody had a dog of some sort to hunt, and we would hunt, just right there. I could go in behind my house and hunt all the way to Bobby's house, which was a pretty good hunt, but it wasn't nothing uncommon. We could hunt from house to house.
Yeah.
Big scope of woods. And then another hard hunter I'll tell you about was Bobby's brother Bo. Man, I tell you what, me and Bobby was always a little chunky, but Bo, man, he go through the woods, man. I mean, he was lean and, a real hunter. You talk about meeting cars. I'll tell you a funny one about Bo was, Bo had an old Chevy Malibu. And I can't tell you how many times I meet Bo. He had a little mountain cur named Bonnie, and she was a real dog. Bonnie'd sit in that front seat like a little old lady. And you'd meet Bo and Bonnie all the time. I mean, going hunting with, little Bonnie sat there in the front seat. But I guess how I got started was everybody had a dog, really. And I was probably, 7. Dad got me I'm guessing it, looking at old pictures, it looks like a Kimmer.
Okay.
It was basically just a pet. I was probably 7, maybe 8, and we'd walk the dog and play with it mainly and hunt a little bit, but it was mainly a pet. And then I got really wanting my own dog to really hunt, and got a little black dog from Willie D. Swallows in Livingston, and named her Duff. And me and Bob hunted her and hunted her and hunted her. And little Duff would tree every once in a while. First tree she ever made was a groundhog, and we was tickled to death.
Yeah.
And so we hunted her to death. And nowadays people wouldn't have hunted her half the time that we did. But we was hunting machines, and we hunted her. And then she never really panned out, but she would tree, but she wasn't a real good dog. But a lot of them boys had good dogs. There's probably one fellow that I hunted with that probably really got me into the dogs as much or more than anybody. He's a retired game warden, and he actually lived across the street from Bobby. His name's Jeff Hummel, and he lives down in Lawrence County, Tennessee now. And he had a little brindle dog named Sadie, and Sadie was sure enough a squirrel dog, and he later bred her to Streak, and that was a heck of a cross, and a little dog out of that named Tyson. They were born the same night that Tyson got knocked out by Buster Douglas in Tokyo, so he named the one he kept. He named him Tyson, but yeah, things come full circle. It's funny that we're talking about Jeff and Bobby. We're starting to hunt together again like we did when we were kids, because see, Jeff's retired, I'm retired, and so he's got a good older style streak dog, what I call real squirrel dog, and he took her about a week ago and bred her to Bobby's dog Rowdy. I think Rowdy was on the NSD World Squirrel Hunt about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I can't remember who owned him at the time. But Rowdy's out of shadow, Bobby's little dog that won all those world hunts. So
yeah,
everything's kind of coming full circle. We're getting old, and we're all starting to, I guess, go back to our childhood a little bit.
There you go. Can't beat that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Except you bumped your head and you got a walker dog in there. What happened there? Midlife crisis?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So Bobby's dad, Jack, like I always called him Coon Man Jack, he was always a walker man. And he had a little walker dog named Belle. And man, you could take Belle on any night, whether it's 10 degrees or perfect conditions, Belle's going to find you a coon one way or another. And anyway, she went back to some real good old stock walker dogs. I think she was out of Spring Creek Radar, or she was out of Spring Creek Rock, which is Radar's daddy. One of the two. I think Radar. But anyway, Belle was a heck of a dog. And of course, we'd go, like I said, I was mostly a squirrel hunter, but we'd go with old Coon man Jack, from time to time, and enjoy the Coon dogs. But I got a notion, because I've always thought, I'm a cur man at heart and always will be, but I think a Walker dog is just a beautiful, one of the most pretty dogs there's ever been. I said, Uncle Jack, I want a pup out of Belle. He said, well, I just bred her. He said, I've got 7 sold. If she has 8, I'll give you one. And I was looking through some old stuff the other day, and I found a calendar. I sent Bobby a picture of it. I said, look at this. I think it was 85 or 86, and it said Belle's pups are due. I had it written on that old calendar, and she had 7 pups, buddy, and that 8th pup was mine, and I never got my Walker dog. So fast forward about, 3 years ago, close to it, I saw a friend of mine, Greg Maynard. He had a raffle online, and I was sitting there watching that one night, and I think there was 100 chances or something like that. Yeah, it was 100 chances. And my girlfriend loves to gamble. We go to the Kentucky Derby. Well, we've been to the last 8. And I said, honey, pick a number between 1 and 100. And she said 37. So I text Greg, and I said, put me down on 37. And I said, I'll Venmo you the money. So, man, I'm telling you, I watched that Facebook like I've never have for 2 days. And it took it about 3 days to fill up. So the third day I quit watching. Well, Greg calls me and he said, hey, what are you doing? I said, not much. He said, you've been watching Facebook? I said, religiously. I said, who won it? He said, you won the pup.
There you go.
I said, did I win the pup? He said, you won the pup. Of course, it was a male. I'm a female, man. I said, well, that's good. He said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, working. He said, I'm coming down 65 right through the middle of Nashville. He said, I'm going to bring you the pup. I said, sounds good to me. I said, when you get close, call me. So he got close and called me, and I made him over here up right off I-65 and got my pup, and I was working. I was in my state trooper uniform in a brand new unmarked Dodge Durango. He said, what are you going to do with that pup? I said, I can tell this story now, Ben, that I'm retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that I'm retired, I can tell this. I said, I'm going to sit him in the front seat. He said, man, this new vehicle? I said, what state vehicle? And so I set the little fellow in the front seat and still got him. He's doing good. He's out of that good rodeo dog.
Yep.
That him and Scott, Scott's got him, but I think maybe Greg hunted him a little bit. But rodeo's a heck of a dog, and he's turned into a real good dog. That's how you got. That's how I got
your Walker dog, huh?
Got a Walker dog, and was wanting a certain bloodline, and didn't figure I'd ever get one. To be honest with you, out of this certain bloodline, and good friend of mine, I talk to him every day. He's actually called me since we've been on the phone here. My old buddy, the Hunt Machine, LB Chapman in Indiana, and we got to talking to him. Of course, he's a Walker man from way back. He loves his curs, but he is a hound man through and through. And so he said, "Oh man," he said, "I know somebody that's got some of that." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Heck, he ain't far from here." Well, Brian Whitty. Of course, Brian's like Greg Maynard and a lot of the big hound names, Scott Engel.
Mm-hmm.
He's won Walker Days in UKC World, I think more than once, and PKC, and just won all kinds of stuff. And
yeah.
So anyway, make a long story short, over the last couple of years, Brian and I have become friends, and he was getting ready to breed his female, which went back to the bloodline that I really like, which is partially his and partially some blood that's from west of here. A little dog called Halftime Ruby.
Yep. And
the hound people, if they listen to this, they already know who that is. But she's the winningest PKC female of all time. So
she was the winningest dog of all time for a long time.
Yeah. For a long time. And And you got to think about it, Ben. Of course, I never hunted with her. I've seen some videos, and I know the boys now that owned her. Wes Hamilton and Jared Hamilton, no relation, but man, they had Halftime Ruby, and she won. I can't remember now. I think it was right at 300,000, and of course, and she won that kind of money back when there wasn't these $100,000 hunts.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I call her the female goat. There'll probably be people disagree with that, but I think most people will agree that when it comes to females, old Halftime Ruby was the goat. The hound people. So,
I don't think there's a ton of people that would disagree with you on that. Conkey's Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkey's motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkey's carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well.
No, I don't. If they know hounds, I don't think they'd be very, very few that would disagree. But yeah, she's doing good. I got her, and she's born June 15th. Harold that a maker of last year, so around 9 months, I guess.
Yeah. And
she's doing good. I had her up at LB's, and of course he loves the coon hunt, and we was coon hunting one night, and anyway, we laid a drag for her eventually, and she, just burned it up. Never showed her a live coon, nothing like that. Just laid one drag, and then we took her the next night, and she made 3 trees, and
man,
the rest is history. 5 months old. I've been killing coon to her since she was a little over 5 months old. So she's something.
Sounds like
she's something special little dog. We'll see. Time will tell. But she's talented and tickled to death that Brian again. I said, Brian, where did I get to pick? He said, just come over and pick you up. So I got lucky again and got to pick her. She was a real pretty big fat female, and she got a sister. She's got a sister that Timmy Waters has got up in Ohio that's just setting it on fire too. So I hope that ends up being one of those special crosses. But you know how it goes. Time will tell. A year from now, neither one of them may not be worth a nickel. But we got high hopes anyway.
Exactly.
And but that's how I got into the hounds. I guess you could say Uncle Jack.
There you go.
He got me.
All them years ago, he got you hooked, and then it just took all those years to finally come together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
WTDA. You want to talk anything about that?
Absolutely. That was the whole reason, what prompted me to call you. So of course I
want to talk. Good. Yeah.
Talk about
man,
WTDA.
I'm excited. I keep drinking this some tea here. I about lost my voice. I've been on the phone, which is a good thing. Solid for 4 or 5, however many days it's been since I made that post, telling everybody. But it's sort of a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. But so I remember the first time I told Miss Lily Moats this story. Probably a year and a half ago. I saw Don Moats come in the clubhouse at Jamestown years ago, and kind of remind you of Don Baker. He's smiling a lot. You could tell people liked him, and he had on a black coat with yellow letters. Talked about the World Tree Dog Association. I'm like, man, that's cool. That coat was cool. That stuff kind of catches your attention if you're into the tree dog world, and of course, then later on, through Abby, Alan and I become close friends, and we'd hunted together, and actually I forgot to mention this. I kept Thundersport, for a month he stayed at Mom's and got him collected. So Al and I become good friends, and we talked about everything. We traveled places hunting together, and anyway, we talked about WTDA, and at the time, Don was starting to get a little age on him, and we were talking. Well, what will happen, if Don passes away? And he said, I don't know. He said, Lily may, want to keep it and do something with it. And I said, man, I said, if he passes away, and I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, I said, maybe we could be partners on it or something.
Yeah.
And he said, well, maybe we'll see. And anyway, Don passes away, 6 months, 8 months or something later. And of course, I didn't want to mention anything to Alan about it or Miss Lily, and her husband just passed away. So about 6 months or so later, I was talking to Alan. I said, do you think she might be interested in selling? He said, I don't know. And he said, when I talk to her, I'll see what kind of, if she's going to keep it. And I said, I don't blame her. Her and Don started that, and good people. And, that was her and Don's thing together, and she wants to keep it. That's wonderful,
Yeah.
And so she did. He talked to her, and she said, yeah, I'm going to keep it, and we're going to rock on with it. And I said, well, that's good. I said, I don't blame her a bit. And so, every 2 or 3 years, I'd actually planned to go hunting the WTDA hunt with Abby. I think that was in 2008. And I called Al and I said, I'm going to come and hunt the hunt. And I'd called Miss Lily, and she'd got me registered, and I still got my registration from WTDA on Abby. And it come a big storm. It was the World Squirrel Hunt.
Yeah.
And it come one like the day before or the day of I was supposed to leave. Of course, here in Tennessee, it was clear as a bell. And I said, Alan, I just made Sergeant, here a while back. I said, I can't miss work. I've got to, I said, if I get up there, I said, I may be snowed in even if I make it there. So I never got to actually hunt in the WTDA hunt.
Yeah.
And, but it went on, several more years. Every once in a while I'd mention to Alan, and he'd say, yeah, anyway, it's still going, and Miss Lily still got it. And so I don't know, probably a year and a half ago, I talked to Alan. I said, hey, do you think she'd want to sell it? And he said, she might. He said, she's kind of mentioned it lately. And so I called her, one evening, and we talked and about it, for a pretty good while. And I told her kind of, how I'd saw Don and heard good things about him, and how that, they always had a real good name. It was very affordable registry. It was family oriented, kid oriented, and that's what I'm about. I love kids. I never had any kids, but I love the idea, because if we don't keep kids involved in this, and I hope the people that listen to this will try to schedule and hold some youth hunts and get the kids involved, because today's society, kids they're just not interested in outdoor stuff like we were, back in the day. And so I really hope, people do that. But anyway, Miss Lily and I, we talked about it, and she said, well, I'm going to have to think about it some more. And so I said, that's fine. I said, I don't want to keep it, family oriented. I want to keep it affordable. I'm not going to make it, one of these things where, people can't afford to come to one of our events and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And so fast forward, several months ago, I was actually at LB's house in Indiana, and Alan called, and he said, I think she's ready to do something with it. Of course, I've been mentioning it off and on for 10 years, and I said, well, wonderful. And so we talked again, and I was able to get it, and I told her, I said, I promise you this, I'm going to keep it, as like you and Don had it, as close as I can, family, kids, affordable, and something that people look forward to coming to.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want to have. I said, I'm not going to move it to the south. I know people probably would think, oh, he's going to take it and move it and stuff, and I'm hoping to have 2 world hunts this year, both in Ohio, probably at 2 different clubs, because I think it's good to spread as those saying, spread the wealth, and because if you have it at the same club, you're going to end up drawing most of the time the same dogs, and you really can't increase participation, that way. And that's what I told Miss Lily. I said, I want to have state hunts. I want to have, I plan to have one in Arkansas. Several states. I hate to say them all and then something fall through, but there's several states that people's already reached out and said, man, I'd love to put on a state hunt, and what do you want to do? And so we've already got plans to have several state hunts, and you're probably wondering about 2 world hunts. Well, WTDA has always had a world squirrel hunt, typically in the spring, and a world coon hunt, typically in the fall.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I like that, Ben, because I've helped put on several hunts over the years. And man, when you're doing squirrel hunts, you're doing coon hunts, bench shows, treeing contests, you're just wore out. If you're trying to hunt a dog, it's doable, but it's miserable.
Yeah.
So I hope, of course, everything's still new and trying to figure everything out, but I hope we can have the squirrel hunt, maybe this spring, maybe I'm talking to some folks, right now about having it, but if that doesn't, if we can't do that, cause you got turkey season right now to worry about.
Yeah.
And so it's getting ready to start. Of course, we don't want dogs in harm or any people in harm's way of, messing up our turkey hunters. And so, anyway, we might be able to squeeze it in and have it this spring, the squirrel hunt this spring, here in about a month, and then have the coon hunt at a different club this fall.
Yeah,
and try to get the membership up. But
so when we recorded this episode last week, Mike had not set the date for the World Squirrel Hunt, and it is now set. So I just wanted to add this in here so that way everyone has all of this information. The World Squirrel Hunt and Bench Show will be April 12th and 13th, 2025 at the Browns County Coon Hunters Association. It's a 7 a.m. deadline, 90-minute cast for each round, $50 entry fee, full elimination hunt. Any type of tree dog is allowed. All dogs drawn together. First place is $1,000 plus other prizes. Second place is $600 plus other prizes. Third is $300 plus other prizes. And fourth is $100 plus other prizes. Dogs can be registered at the hunt. Dogs previously registered with WTDA will be honored. Registration is $20. Guides will be paid $25 per round. Champion points will be awarded at the conclusion of the hunt for placing 1st through 10th. World Champion Bench Show is at 12 p.m. on Saturday. The entry fee is $25. The clubhouse address for the Browns County Coon Hunters Association is 4274 Oakland Road, Bethel, Ohio, 45106. There's lodging about 10 minutes away in Mount Orab. If any questions, call Mike Hamilton at 931-267-1178. No alcohol or non-prescription drugs allowed on the grounds or the cast. All of that information will also be posted in the show notes. So if you are listening to this and didn't get any of that, just go to the show notes. I will copy all of that information and just post it in the show notes. So make sure you get to the WTDA World Squirrel Hunt this year. In the fall, there will be the World Coon Hunt. And from what me and Mike were talking about after the podcast, it sounds like he's got some really big ideas, and these hunts should be top notch.
There's there's a lot of folks right around, where I grew up and lived, and I'll name a few names, but there's more than them. But you got people like John Newman. He's won a lot of world hunts at Jamestown, OMCBA, and John's wonderful. He said, man, I had a youth hunt scheduled not long ago and had to cancel it due to weather. That's when the floods hit Kentucky and several other states had snow and ice, and so we had a youth hunt through TWRA, which is the Tennessee Game Wardens, and of course John was all on board, going to help with that, and he's a big supporter, like I am, of all these clubs, and Joy Poston, Richie Bean, Bobby, and several more. I'm going to leave somebody out and hurt feelings, but a lot of those guys there, what I call the little home network, all of them is like, well, we'll support you all we can. And they will. And, in talking about too, supporting these other organizations, I've always believed in that. Like, Jimmy Inman with NSD has just, he set the world on fire, and known Jimmy a long time. I was a sergeant in Cumberland County where he lives, and we've been friends for a long time. And, Greg and Scott with Pro Sport, and, UKC, NKC, PKC, USDC, Jeff Island has done a great thing. He's got it going on over there. And there's I shouldn't have started naming them now because I'm going to leave somebody out, but,
there's a lot of people.
Support all of these. Yeah, and that's what we need to do. We can't, like I told a guy today, we can't all go to every event, every hunt, but, support each other as much as you can, because, there are groups out here that's not particularly fond of hunting, rodeos, and, things of that nature. So, you may have a club, or an organization maybe you grew up with that's you're a little partial to, like OMCBA. I grew up with OMCBA and loved it and still do and always will. And, but help each other out and support each other. That's always that, and the kids. Those are the two things that for this sport to continue to be good and prosper and grow, support each other and get these kids off the couches and into the woods. That's what we've got to do. And I really hope that Miss Lily could come to one or both of these world hunts, and I'd like to recognize her.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do something, and they may have already have something. I'm still learning WTDA myself, but have something in Don's name. Something, one of our big events. Some kind of memorial or something of that nature. And they may have. I can't remember, Ben.
I believe that. Well, one of the hunts at the Tuscarora Coon Club is like a Don Moats memorial hunt or something like that.
Awesome. Well, I want to keep that. I want to keep that going for sure. And that's. But it's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun. A buddy of mine asked me today. He said, "Well, yesterday, he said, why are you doing this?" He said, "You got enough on your plate." I said, "Well, it's a fun challenge, and so we'll see how it pans out. I think it'll be good. It's gonna, like another buddy of mine told me today. He said, Rome wasn't built in a day, and so, and I tell you this, I've talked to several of the clubs. That's their presidents, that's been active in WTDA, and their directors, board members, and whatnot, and they're all like, look, and I told them, what I wanted to do. I said, I don't want the same club to have it every year. I want to move it around. And they're like, hey, we'll come and help you, and like the guys at Morgan County, I've been talking to them, and they're in Ohio, and they're like, we'll come to wherever you got your hunt, and we'll help you put it on, and
Yeah.
and we'll go support you and support the club. And I said, well, it's the club, it's not me. So I just want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah. No, I've really liked the WTDA because when I first got into all this, like I was telling you the other night, that was the first hunt I ever went to was a WTDA hunt, and I don't know if it was the World. It was an elimination hunt. I forget exactly. If it wasn't the World, it was something else big, but got to go hunt a couple rounds and see some pretty notable dogs. One of which being like Jammin' Bo, and got to see him go, and it was kind of funny. He was the youngest dog on the cast, and he was 9 years old. We had the geriatric cast, the second round, and he treats some squirrels, and he went on, but the other two dogs, they weren't looking so hot, and one of them belonged to a good friend of mine, and she was squirrel dogs, but just couldn't hunt, all day, multiple rounds. So
yeah. Well, there's your dog right there. There's another one I never hunted with him. And I think I met Dole Sherman that owns him one time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know him.
Yeah.
But I've never heard nothing but good things about that dog. And, that's, again, WTDA, tree and curs, hounds.
Yeah.
If it a tree, bring it on, it's just bring it on. We take them all, and yeah, there's a lot of good dogs out there, but yeah, I want to honor Don and Lily as much as I can, and make it as good as I can. That's my goal, and maybe it'll happen, Ben. I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, what are the common questions you've been getting asked the last couple of days? Maybe this will help anybody that's interested in curb some of the phone calls, since, like you said, you've been nonstop. If we can, the frequently asked questions here.
Well, one of the things was about the treeing contest and bench show.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the squirrel hunt was just the squirrel hunt, and then the coon hunt was the coon hunt, bench show, and the treeing contest.
Okay.
So I was talking to Kelly. He's one of the officers, I guess, at Morgan County.
Yep.
And tonight or late this evening, and we were talking about because I've tried to talk to as many as I can in Ohio, and he said, I said, Kelly, you think it's too much, putting everything on the same weekend as the night hunt? Because I really think, and I could be wrong, I really think attendance is really going to go up in both.
Yeah.
Because I know I've met a lot more people in the hound world over the last 3 years, and several of them said that, they will do their best to come, and I believe them. And so I really believe, so what I'm thinking is maybe not put both of them on the coon hunt.
Okay.
Maybe have the squirrel hunt, the World Squirrel Hunt, and the World Treeing Contest together.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the fall, have the World Coon Hunt and the World Bench Show. That kind of splits it up. And again, like you're not exhausted and trying to do, everything at the same time and being worn out. The other thing was, of course, I've worked the whole state of Tennessee, being a state trooper, retired state trooper. So I know Tennessee, but when I call these guys, I say, guys, I don't know Ohio. I keep a hunt license year round in 4 states on auto renew. Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. That way, when I hunt there, I'm covered. I ain't got to worry about going and getting trying to find a license. And just all those years, because I may only hunt there, twice a year. But hopefully I'll be hunting there a lot now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't know, like Tennessee. Tennessee, you've got West Tennessee that's as flat as your living room floor. You got Middle Tennessee It's got rolling hills and a little flat ground. Then you go way east, and you've got some flat ground, but you got a lot of mountains.
Yeah.
So you know, you don't want to wire people out and they go somewhere that's like, man, this is miserable. So, but two, you want to split it up. You don't want it to be in the same, like I said, the same group every year getting to put on the world hunt. And so the question that they keep asking me is, well, where do you want to hold it? And I said, well, that's where I'm relying on each of you to tell me, you know, where can we go and have plenty of hunting, whether it be state ground and privately owned ground. You know, where can we go that the club, you know, will help us? Of course, you know, we're going to compensate them and give them money and for letting us be there. But you know, you've seen clubs before that's active and some that just kind of exist. So we want those clubs that's going to help us, you know, help us guide. You know, of course, you're going to pay you guys a little bit and for helping out and, you know, clubs that's got, you know, adequate facilities where, you know, I like going to a club and like there's an awesome club. I'm going to throw a bone out to some friends of mine in South Carolina. Danny and Jeremy Nichols, that club at Whitmire, South Carolina. Anytime you go there, you feel like you're walking to a family reunion. You know, everybody's smiling and glad to see you, and them boys is always cooking something, and you know, of course, you can go out and eat, but you know, if I travel, you know, to South Carolina, I want to see my friends, and I want to, you know, see the whole group. You know, I don't want four of us to go out and eat. I want to see everybody, and so a club like that, Jeremy and Danny, and they're not the only ones. There's, you know, Josh Presley, and I hear them naming names. I'm gonna leave somebody out, but that whole, you know, his dad and uncles and several more of them boys. That's just an example. They have a real club over there, and they've held some good big hunts and make you feel welcome, and you know, they're all guiding and they've got good spots, and so that's what I'm looking for in Ohio is the clubs that we can get some support from the local guys. Because if you don't have that, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's probably the biggest question is where you gonna have it and you know, and when. And so the when is, you know, we've done past. They normally would have sometime in the month of March. I think it was last year they had it the last weekend in March, the squirrel hunt, the World Squirrel Hunt, and I think Bobby won it with Shadow in 2019. I think it was like March the 7th or 8th, somewhere in there. So we've done past that. So we'll see. We'll see if we have it. We have it in April. Mm-hmm. You know, this April, like next month.
That's a lot to take on, and you just take over the registry, you make the announcement, and a month later try to hold a World Squirrel Hunt. So good luck on that. That's a big undertaking right there.
It is, buddy. That's why my throat is a little sore from all the talking, and I spent an hour today probably making 3 or 4 calls about trophies. You know, I've got probably 8 or 9 of those OMCBA trophies that's like 4 foot tall, and they're behind a big sectional in the upstairs living room, I guess you'd call it, bonus room, covered in dust that I haven't looked at since we moved in 8 years ago. So I'm wanting to get those. They're stamped like metal, they're flat metal, probably, I don't know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick or something like that, and they're like 2 by 2. You can hang them. You know, they're powder coated. You can hang them on the wall of your barn, your house, your man shed.
Yep.
You know, and they're out of the way, and so I've been pricing those, and seeing how quick they can get them done, and if we are able to have. But I tell you, man, those things are expensive. You would think they would be, but they are. So yeah, that, and just trying to see what we can do. I think we got a good chance of having it, but we'll see. I don't want to promise nobody that we can have it. I've talked to the Boone County Coon Hunters Club and their president, and those guys have just been. I don't know them, but man, I tell you, everything I've heard about them has been awesome. The USDC World Squirrel Hunt is like, I'm going to be close, but probably off April the 3rd through the 6th or 7th of next month at that same club. Jeff Island and those guys, and they put on a heck of an event.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next weekend is the one that I'd love to do it if I could. It would be the weekend of the 12th, I think, because the following weekend, April the 19th, if I'm not mistaken, is when
it's Easter.
The Ohio turkey season starts. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna do all I can do, and if it looks like it would be better to wait for fall, then that's what we'll do.
There you go.
Yeah. That's maybe you can come see us and you can film the final cast.
And if you do get it on the books and you want me to throw it on here, we can advertise it and get a little more publicity for it. Especially since it's short notice.
Awesome.
Just let me know.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. The owner of Full Cry called today, and
Jason.
Yeah, man, he's a nice fella. Jason. I didn't talk to him for maybe 30 minutes, and never had talked to him before. And man, he's awesome. There was a lot of people. Of course, everybody loves social media. It's quick.
Oh yeah.
But there's still old-fashioned people like me, and even some of the young people. They still like the thoughts of seeing their dogs and their clubs in a magazine. And he called me,
love it.
And yeah, didn't know him. He just called me, and I didn't have a clue who it was. And man, Jason's a super good guy. And I told him, I said, look, I'm a subscriber right now. You can look me up at Full Cry, and have been for years. And actually, I wrote an article in Full Cry for my hometown club, the Middle Tennessee Squirrel and Coon Hunters Club, for probably, I'm going to say 5 years. And then I did a column for the original Mountain Cur for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'm glad you got it, because a lot of these old traditions and stuff, they're going to the wayside. And I hate that. That's just like, WTDA, it's been around since 91. And I just didn't want to see it end, and yep. I know people's probably wondering why Hillbilly is wanting something that, started and was based out of the North. Well, one, it's tree dogs. It don't matter. The dog don't know, where it's from. And so, and like I said, Don and Lily always, first class people, and just good people, and, family oriented. I'm being redundant, but that's just what they were. They were good people. And I've got a lot of friends in Ohio, and I want to see it go. I want to see it keep going. And when I get a little older and a little tired, I hope somebody takes it from me and makes it even better than I had it. That's what we always said at work. When you've got a subordinate, you're training them up to take your job. And when they do, when you move up or retire, they need to take what you did and make it even better.
Yep.
And so
exactly,
that's exactly what I want to see happen with the WTDA. Down the road, I hope somebody takes it to a whole new level again. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Have I answered most of your questions? I feel like I've rambled.
No, you have not rambled at all. I've enjoyed this, and but I know you've been talking a lot, so I don't want to hold you up too much longer. If
you're
that's
good.
all you got, I mean, like I said, if there's anything that you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to. But if that's all you got, I'm good.
No, I'm good. I'd maybe get to meet you one day. Thanks for calling, and I'm gonna follow your podcast, and you called me the other day, and I said, I don't really watch a lot of podcasts, but I do sometimes. But I will now because like I said, this is how the younger folks coming on is stuff like this, that they like, and but yeah, there's a lot of people. I'm gonna probably drive home here in a little while and think, man, I wish I'd have mentioned so and so and so and so. So, and left somebody out. But there's just a lot of good organizations, and we need to all support each other.
Oh,
that's
for
just
sure.
the bottom line. And you doing this, and I think we talked about Josh the other day, didn't we?
Yeah.
He's another one. What he does. Man, that promotes this sport. Both of y'all promote this sport tremendously. So he and I are friends on Facebook, and we've texted a time or two about hounds. But tell him thank you, and thank you to you as well.
Well, it's my pleasure. This is what I love. I love talking dogs and seeing good dog work, and this has afforded me to do a little bit of that, more of it. So. It's all part of it. So, well, I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, glad to, Ben, and hope you stay in touch, and we'll talk down the road, brother.
For sure. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media, and until next time, keep them talking in the timber.